Hello, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome indeed to this afternoon's iOB business webinar. It's a pleasure to have you on here. My name is Ben, and I'm the resident business coach here at iOB Business. Now, if this is one of your first time joining us on one of these webinars, a very, very warm welcome to you. It's always a pleasure to see some new faces and a little bit about how these webinars work right before we get kicked off on today's session. Okay, so before we begin, let's just run over the fundamentals, okay? We always do an introduction with myself. My name is Ben, once again, and we'll talk for a couple of minutes just whilst we're letting everybody join. Now, we're going to cover three topics in today's session, as we always do, and it's important that I note to you that in between each of the three topics we're going to cover today, you're more than welcome to ask any questions, and indeed, we're going to give you a little bit of time to jot down any notes that you might have as well. So please don't feel pressure to keep up. If there's anything you need to write, anything you need to jot down, we're going to make sure that you get time to do that. Now, if you are looking to ask questions, you can do so. There should be a grey Q&A box at the bottom of your screen there, and you can put them in there for me. Once we're finished with today's session, we're going to run that for around about 15 to 20 minutes. And then after, we're going to dive onto a Q&A session where I'll answer all of the questions that I got from you on today's session. Okay, so those of you joining us for not the first time, you'll be very familiar with how this runs. It's a pleasure to welcome you all back. So just whilst we're waiting for everybody to join us, I'm just going to give it another little minute or so just to make sure that everybody has the time to get on with us here. Okay, perfect. So once again, welcome. Today's topic of conversation: why small steps are a big deal. Okay, now this is a huge component of business, something that's incredibly important that we talk about. So we're going to make sure that we do that in good detail today. Now, once again, if you do have any questions, do not be shy to ask. Okay, so without further ado, let's get kicked off. Your presenter today is myself. My name is Ben, and I'm a professional business coach, the resident business coach here at iOB Business. What I do is I specialize in working with small businesses and help them achieve stability and growth. This is my passion. This is my love. This is what I get to do every single day, and I'm blessed to be on here presenting with you today. Okay, now the three topics of conversation we have for today. Number one, the release of physical good feeling. Okay, you might be familiar with the scientific term of this, and this is something that if you are familiar with, it's very much going to make sense. And if you're not totally familiar with it, please don't worry about that either, because we're going to cover it in detail. Number two, we're going to talk about the fact that it's easier to improve on something than perfect it the first time. I'm a very strong believer in this method. I think it's something going to be very effective if used properly, and we're going to make sure that we cover how to do that today. And finally, we're going to discuss the fact that momentum carries you forward, okay? So these are the three main topics of conversation we're going to talk about today. Now, once again, please remember that you're more than welcome to ask any questions throughout today's session, and we'll get to them at the end in the Q&A session. And in between each of the three topics that we have up in front of the screen here, we're going to give you a brief moment of time in between each one so that you can jot down any notes that you might wish to take. Okay, so let's get started with the physical release of good feeling, okay? Now, here's the thing. Achieving something, no matter how small, releases a rush of endorphins, okay? So this is when I was referring you to the scientific term for this. Endorphins are a hormone, okay? It's a feel-good hormone. So when you achieve something, now you might have experienced this in your personal life, you might have experienced this in your business life. Tidying the house, personal life, feels good, right? Feels good to sit on the couch and look across your clean empire and think, wow, this feels great. I wish I could keep it like this all the time, okay? Potentially it's something you've been pressing to at work. Big project, okay? Finally got it done. How good does that feel? Okay, it can be something even tiny. It can be something like waking up at the right time without hitting snooze on the alarm. It can be something like making the bed, okay? It releases a rush of endorphins, and this is telling your body, wow, we feel good. We feel like we've hit a sense of achievement here, okay? Now, we're talking today about why small steps, little steps, are a big deal, okay? Because predominantly, the better you feel, the more you're gonna get done, okay? So if there's ever been a time where you've been sitting down, trying to get something done, okay, whether it be at work, whether it be personally, you've been trying to get it done, but you just feel like it's impossible. And you feel that way because you're not particularly motivated. You're feeling a little bit run down. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're stressed. Maybe you're not feeling great. Maybe you're feeling a little bit under the weather. Okay. Now, you then may further this by beating yourself up for not getting much done. Now, there's a good chance that all of this is compounding And ultimately, the reason you're probably not getting very much done is because you're not feeling that great. Okay. Now, this is absolutely natural, absolutely normal. So I don't want you to go beating yourself up the next time you don't get something done that you said you were going to. But we've got to be careful we don't use it as an excuse. Okay. So if we're just conscious that we're making sure that actually when we genuinely, truly don't feel great or we don't feel overly motivated, this is okay. All right. But it's not going to be a permanent thing. And we definitely don't want to use it as an excuse to do nothing. Okay. So there are military methods that suggest starting your day by making your bed means you achieve something at the very start of your day. Okay. So this is actually a really, really good tip. And we can even take the military part out of it. It's just interesting to include it because it's such an official regimen. Okay. But there are methods that suggest that if you wake up in the morning and you make your bed, this gives you a sense of achievement. It shows that you're taking your day seriously, that you're taking yourself seriously, and that you really genuinely care about the situational circumstances around you. Now, I know this might seem crazy, all of this coming from simply making your bed, but please give it a go. Okay. If you're somebody that does make the bed every day, great. If you're somebody that doesn't, try it, see how it feels. Okay. Now, there's two benefits to this. Number one, you're going to feel like you achieved something, even though it's a little thing, you did something that you wouldn't normally do. Okay, now this doesn't have to be making your bed. It can be any small task, okay? Something that you don't normally do. So you've done that, you've completed it. Now that's one major benefit. What's the second? Your home looks good. Your bedroom looks good. You get to come home at the end of the day after working really, really hard, and you can come back and look at something beautiful, something that you can relax in, okay? Now, that is warm and welcoming to everyone. Think about if you showed up to a hotel and the bed wasn't made, it was just bed sheets chucked everywhere and pillowcases half undone, and the whole thing was a mess. You would go straight down to reception, you request a refund or a different room. Okay. It looks good, it looks appealing, makes you happy. All right. So there are military methods that suggest starting your day by making your bed means you achieve something at the very start of your day. Now, what does this do? It sets a precedent for your day. It says, I am not messing around today. I'm going to make sure that I can be the best version of myself today. Okay. When you feel good, you feel capable. So we discussed what this means in a slightly smaller term. Okay. When you feel good, you feel productive, you feel capable. What does that mean? It means you can get more done. Now, if you remember back in the first point, we discussed the fact that when you're not feeling great, there's a much, much higher likelihood that you're going to get very little done. You're not going to get very much done. Why? Because you don't feel great, you don't feel productive, you don't feel confident, you don't feel capable. Is this because you don't feel good? Is this because you feel under the weather? Is this because you're stressed? It could be any one of those reasons. What we need to focus on doing is make sure that you feel good, okay? So if you really can't do it, if you really are genuinely under the weather, rest, okay? Come at it with a fresh mind, something that can be productive, something that can be powerful. Now, once again, I'm going to highlight the fact that there is a difference between using it as an excuse that you don't feel good or genuinely not being productive because you don't feel 100%. They're two different things. Okay, now it doesn't mean that you are incapable when you're not feeling good, but it certainly helps to feel good. Can we encourage this? Absolutely. Can we make sure that this happens? Absolutely. Okay, make sure that you're getting this rush of endorphins, this release of a good feeling, making sure that you carry this in your body and in your mind throughout the day, because when you feel good, you feel capable. And when you feel capable, you get stuff done. Okay. A capable business owner is an unstoppable business owner. Okay. This is what you need to tell yourself. So whether you're a prospective digital agency owner, where you're currently doing it, whether you're currently absolutely grabbing life by the horns, running your business well, whether you're a veteran of the industry, this will apply to everyone and we'll all feel this way. Okay. A capable business owner is an unstoppable business owner. All right. So I'm going to give you a moment now. Please do take that moment, jot down any notes that you need to take, and indeed feel free to fire away any questions that you've got on your mind, and I will get to them during the Q&A session for you at the end there. All right, perfect. So hopefully you've had a chance to do that now, and we will dive into topic number 2 for the day. All right, it's easier to improve on something than perfect it the first time. All right, now this is an awesome topic of conversation, something I could talk all day about, but I won't. Okay, we're going to spend the next 5 to 10 minutes talking about this. So the concept, it's easier to improve on something than perfect it the first time. okay? Here's the theory. Just get started, okay? This is the theory that you must begin to live by. Why? Because there are so many of us, and we're going to cover this in detail, but there are so many of us who will plan, overthink, meticulously iron out every single detail, so much so to the point where we won't even get started, okay? It's easier to improve on something than perfect it the first time, okay? Now, this could apply in many different ways, in many different examples. But if you think back to your school days, okay, and let's say you were writing an essay for your teacher, you've been asked to do it for homework, whatever. So you were given the essay and you put something down on the paper and you hand it over to the teacher, and very, very unlikely did they ever say, that's absolutely perfect, thanks very much. What they likely did was take the piece of paper with the essay on it, they went over it, they made their suggestions, they made their remarks, their comments, gave it back to you to go and improve on. That's how we work. That's how we improve. Now, you can do this for yourself. You can ask for an accountability partner. You can find somebody that can help you do this, or you can do it yourself. But one thing I can absolutely assure you of is that it's easier to improve on an existing item, an existing subject, than it is to perfect it the first time round. You're not going to get an absolutely flawless result the first time round. You need data, you need feedback, you need to be able to review it. Even mentally, personally, in your own mind, you need a chance to go through something again and think, actually, yeah, I don't like the way I did that. I'm going to change it. I think this is better. Okay. But if you try and get it absolutely spot on, absolutely perfect from the offset, the chances are you're going to be so reluctant to do anything because you're so fearful of getting it wrong. And you're going to end up with nothing. It's absolutely not something that you want. Okay. So just get started. This is the theory you must begin to live by. Now, trying to achieve perfection before starting will inevitably lead to a non-starter. Now, we know what this means, okay? A non-starter is something that just doesn't get going. It's something that in our brain will block us from allowing it to happen, okay? Now, this is something that I teach so often in my coaching theories with businesses, because it's easier to improve on something, okay? If you think about any example, anytime you built something, anytime you drafted something, anytime you developed something, okay, was it easier now to improve it? Did it feel less intimidating when it came back or when you had a second look at it? Did the book, the essay, the project, the website, whatever, once you'd taken a first whack at it, when it came back, did it feel like less of an intimidating object? Did it feel like you already had a basis and a platform and a foundation to work on? Chances are I'm going to say yes, okay? Now, the reason behind this is because you're not starting from scratch, so you have to think about a lot less. You're working with a basis of foundation. You can look at exchanging things, okay? You can exchange a not so good thing for a better thing. You can improve on something. You can make a slight tweak or a slight adjustment. You're almost proofreading or proof copying, whatever it is that you're doing, you're proofing it. Now, what that means is you're improving on something. You're making sure that it's good, that it's great, that it's perfect, whatever you want it to be, okay? But striving for perfection before we even get started is only going to hurt you in the long run, because it's very, very unlikely that you're going to manage to absolutely nail whatever it is the first time. Now, if you're not familiar with this theory, this feeling, this concept, try it for yourself and see if it helps you, okay? I'm very, very confident that you will feel an improvement on this. So when you come back to review something, you can isolate areas for improvement whilst feeling confident in the work already completed, okay? So once again, I refer back to this rush of endorphins, this rush of good feeling. If I have a 2,000 word essay to write, I'm going to draft it and I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at it the next day, okay? I'm going to put pen to paper. I'm going to start moving on it. I'm going to start moving on it now, because every word that hits that paper is going to feel like I've achieved something small. It's going to give me a rush of endorphins. It's going to make me feel good. What's that going to do? It's going to make me feel capable. Word after word after word until I've got the full 2,000 words done. Now, when a copy gets given back to me, I can then go back through it and say, right, okay, well, actually, I'm going to change that. I made a typo here. I made a spelling error here. This sentence isn't aligned correctly, whatever. We're using the essay example because it's something that's easy to relate to, okay? All back from our primary education days even, okay? So when you come back to review something, you can isolate the areas for improvement whilst feeling confidence in the work already completed. Why? Because you're not building a mountain. you're carving parts of that mountain to perfect it. Okay. You cannot receive feedback on nothing. Okay. So if you're curious as to whether you would or have done a good job, if you have nothing to show for it, even for yourself, you're going to have a very, very hard time figuring out what can be improved, what didn't go so well, what did go well. You can't receive feedback on nothing. And what this means is if you procrastinate for so long, trying to make the situation perfect, ultimately you're going to end up with a non-starter. You're going to end up with a result that never came through. You cannot receive feedback on nothing. Okay. So I'm going to give you a moment now to review topic number 2. Please, please, please remember, if nothing else from today, it's easier to improve on something than perfect it the first time. So I'm going to give you a moment now. Please do go ahead, jot down any notes that you may have, and indeed fire away with any questions, and I will get you back in just a moment for topic number 3. Okay, perfect. So hopefully you've had a chance now to do that, and we can dive on to the third and final topic of today's conversation. Okay, momentum carries you forward. All right, this is a good one. Okay, small steps, they're a big deal. All right, so here's a little bit of psychology. Here's a little bit about thinking, how we position things in our mind. All right, instead of thinking, I have so much to do today, think, I'm nearly done with this, I can smash the next one. Okay, so let's say, hypothetically, imagine that you've got a to-do list with 10 tasks in front of you. Okay, now here's a little side note. Some people prefer to tackle the biggest, the most intimidating task on their list first. Others choose to start with the smallest. Both have benefits in different ways. If you tackle the biggest, you feel like you've done the hardest thing today, so everything else would seem easier. If we tackle the smallest, it feels like you've got something done, so then you feel a wave of momentum that you can get more done that day. Now, the way we've got to think about this is instead of looking at the full stretch of 10 things on our to-do list today, we think, oh, I've got so much to do today. I'm never going to get it all done. I've only got a certain amount of time. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm stressed. I'm not feeling great. Whatever that might be. Instead of thinking this way, pick one task, get it done. Now, when you're nearly done with that, you can think to yourself, I'm nearly done with this. I can smash the next one. And then guess what happens? You smash task number 1 into task number 2, into task number 3. Now, because you're focusing on the next step, you're taking one step at a time. You're focusing on your left foot going in front of your right, then your right foot going in front of your left. You're not looking at the hill that you're climbing. You're just watching your steps go forward. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Before you know it, you're halfway through the list. When you're halfway through the list, you think, well, I'm over halfway done. I've only got a few more to do. It is absolutely positioning within your mind, within your psychology, the story that you tell yourself, the way you position it. It's incredibly important and very, very good for you to know. Okay. Achieving each small step creates compound momentum. Okay. So compounding, we're building on something. Okay. Creates compound momentum, allowing your mental state to carry you on. Okay. Your mind will begin to cheer you on. It will begin to say, yes, we've got this. Okay. We can do it. Because we've just achieved that, we've done an incredibly good job. We then achieved that and that and that and that and that, and slowly you'll begin to see the ticks coming off your to-do list, your list of items getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. You might even feel like getting tomorrow's work done as well, okay? Because you achieved much more than you thought you were capable of. Why? Not because you were incapable previously, but because of the positioning that you took in your mind, telling you, let's focus on one step at a time, left, right, left, right, left, right. Okay, so achieving each small step creates this compound momentum, which is crucial to success, crucial to achieving efficiency. Okay, allowing your mental state to then carry you on, which is so incredibly important. Okay, small steps, bite-sized and easy to achieve. Okay, so if you break down the task correctly, you will never face an overwhelming challenge. Okay, so let's take an example of this. Let's say that you're building a big website. Okay, let's say it's 20, maybe even 30 pages big. Okay, now this is seemingly a daunting task. Maybe it's going to take you 2 months to complete it because of the sheer size of it. Okay, but what you've got to remember here is you've given yourself a long enough timeline to get the job done. So what you need to do is each day throughout that 2 months, take a step of the website. Okay, maybe you seek to do, let's say 2 months, that's 60 days. Okay, or roughly 40 working days if you do the, if you do the working week. And let's say that you've got 40 working days to complete a 30-page website. Okay, so that's then the logic would carry us to, we do 1 page a day, okay, and then that leaves us 10 days at the end for review time, for going back, getting feedback, all these kinds of things. Now, when you push the project over for feedback, you do feel a very much of a weight off because you've completed the initial chunk. It feels great to have the initial chunk of the project done, and you say, yes, this is great. You feel happy, you feel like there's a weight off, you feel like you've achieved something. You hand over this big completed project to your client, whoever you're doing it for, and you're awaiting feedback. You feel awesome. You feel like you've done something really, really valuable because you have. Okay. Now, where the bite-sized sections come into it is in all you need to do is do 1 page of the website a day. Okay. And if you stay on this track, if you stay at this momentum, this pace, you're going to get it done. Okay. You're going to get it done even ahead of time with 10 days at the end for wiggle room. Okay. Room if you need it. Okay. But you probably won't. All right. So small steps are bite-sized and easy to achieve steps. And if you break them down correctly, you'll never face an overwhelming challenge. Give yourself time to break it down properly. Just do 1 page of a website a day. Okay. Now, depending on the page that you're building, it can take anywhere between, say, an hour and a half to maybe 5 or 6 hours. Either way, a standard working day is 8 hours. You should have plenty of time to get it done. Okay. Now, when you feel momentum taking place or entering the zone, capitalize on this moment and you will achieve more. Okay. Now, entering the zone is something that many of us will be familiar with. And it's essentially a feeling where you get so into the task that you're doing, you feel absolutely unstoppable. Okay. The zone is almost an indescribable feeling where your fingers are burning a hole in the keyboard because they're moving that quickly. Or you're running a race and your body's just taken over. You're not even having to think about running. You're just moving forward. Okay. When you're in the zone, it is an indescribable force of momentum that carries you forward, but you can recognize that this is happening. You're not watching the clock. You're not thinking about time. You're not thinking about stress. You are fully 100% focused on that task with nothing else in mind. When you achieve this, capitalize on it by carrying it forward. Stay in the zone for as long as you possibly can, because you will almost find a sense of you're unaware of what you're doing, but very aware at the same time, and you will get so much done. Okay. So that brings us to the end of topic number 3. I'm going to give you a brief moment now to jot down any notes, to ask any questions. Thank you so much for that one. I'll get that at the end there for you. And then we will do a recap and we'll dive into the Q&A session. Okay, so let's recap on today's session. Number 1, when you feel good, you feel capable. Make sure that you get this rush of endorphins, make your bed in the morning, feel capable, set the right precedent for the day. Remember, just get started. Don't try and perfect it. Don't try and overthink it. Just make sure that you get something down on paper. You can go back, you can review it, okay? Hypothetically speaking, of course. And finally, each small step compounds momentum. Feel good, get in the zone, get more done, all right? So, as always, a massive thank you for attending our webinar today. If you'd like to talk to a member of our team, you'd be more than welcome to head over to iob-business.com/talk-to-us. And then you can go ahead and book a call with us at any time that suits you. I'm going to leave the calendar up there. I'm going to leave the link up there for you whilst I go and grab your questions from today. All right. Cool. First question I've got. I struggle to ever feel momentum. Okay, cool, awesome. This is a great one, okay? So it's likely that tasks that you're taking on, they're probably a little bit too big, all right? So what I'm going to suggest that you do is try smaller objectives. You're trying to climb a cliff face right now instead of allowing yourself to climb the steps, okay? So instead of going vertical, imagine you're climbing a staircase, okay? It's much easier to get up the side of the cliff when you're going up a staircase as you are trying to scale it vertically, all right? So whatever it is, you're probably struggling to find momentum because you're giving yourself insurmountable tasks. Therefore, you're never really getting it done. So in order to feel momentum, you usually have to get whatever it is in front of you completed. All right. Fantastic question. Thanks for asking. Getting big things done is easier said than done. Totally agree with you. Okay. You will still face your challenges. You can choose to be defeated or you can choose to grow. Okay. Now that personal choice is yours. All right. Easier said than done, 100%. Can you take the tips from today's session and implement them? 100%. Okay. I wish you the very best of luck. And I really appreciate you asking that kind of question, because it's something that's very, very important to be highlighted. Lots of things are easier said than done. And I'm not sitting here and saying you absolutely need to feel this force of momentum, or you absolutely can smash any task in front of you ever. We're all personal, we're all individual. And if you feel like it's easier said than done to get a big task done, break it down, look at it in bite-sized chunks. Okay. Inevitably, it will help you drive forward. Wonderful question. Thank you so much for asking. Okay, so I'm just going to check if we have any more questions from today. All right, it looks like that's all the questions that we have then. So once again, a massive thank you for attending today. I wish you the very best. Have a wonderful week, and I very much look forward to speaking with you again a couple of weeks from now. Take care and bye for now.